Good day and welcome to this edition of the Royal LePage Binder Live Market Report. My name is Dominic Papa and glad to have you along for the ride here. We're going to be talking real estate, everything involved, and certainly proud and pleased to be teamed up with the Royal LePage Binder family. I want to thank them for bringing us on board. And of course, the man that runs the show there, the broker of record, hardworking guy, that's for sure, and really one of the good guys, Mr. Frank Binder, is running the show there. And good day to you, Mr. Binder, and thanks for joining us today. And I'm anxious to talk some real estate. I always love to learn, and I'm looking so forward to working with you on this program. And I know I'm going to learn a lot.
Thank you, Arms. Not Arms, but Dom. I knew I was going to do that. You are taking over for Arms, and you are our new host, and I do appreciate the fact that you've joined us. We look forward to our collaboration here, and we're looking forward to putting on these shows with you. Listen, lots of new stuff coming on. We're going to be talking about that. Changes in the market that we're going to be talking about. I'm sure that people will be interested in hearing. So without further ado, we can go to the first slide, and we'll get it going from there, and we'll move along.
Yeah, it's interesting because I talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you talk to a lot of people every day. But I have some friends that work in the real estate industry, and they're already telling me there's some changes coming. That even some of the prices and stuff like that, there's going to be a little bit of a change in that. But you're the doctor of real estate, so I'm going to let you tell our viewers how this is all going to work. We're going to start with units sold by price range.
Sure. As you can see, what you've got is the price range basically of units sold in May. The under 550,000 is 275 and 364 in the graph. But there's a greater story to be told there, really, and it starts with the listings. Basically, one of the biggest things we've noticed is that we've increased the supply. We've been alluding to that for a number of months now. That when we start the month, what's the inventory of listings? And basically what we're going to be talking about that just in a moment, but I think we want to also talk about supply. And we had a almost a 21% or 20.46% increase in listings again for this month. And that's been, I think, the last 3 months, if I recall it properly, we've been having increases in the listing because I think a lot of people have been trying to get their houses on the market. I think people are aware that changes were coming. And some are trying to cash in, if you will, to get that higher price. And there's no question about it. I totally understand why they would be doing it. You see more of a balance. What we've seen generally in our market has been that there's been a greater amount of sales in the over 550 than under 550. And now you're seeing a softening of that market. And there's reason for that. We'll get into that in a little while. But the highest category 2, you've seen a drop in that. So there's 67 units that are in that 550 to 599 category. And now what we're seeing is that in that $1 million plus category, the lowest amount of number that we've got in a while is 48 homes sold this last month, compared to 68 homes the month before. And the month before that, 95. So you've seen a steady drop in the very higher end market. And whether or not that's just because of inflation or whether it's because of other factors, we're not entirely sure, other than the fact that there are dropping and there's a softening in that upper market.
I'm glad you mentioned the inflation point there, Mr. Binder. Inflation affects everything, our everyday life. How hard does it hit real estate?
Well, listen, let's talk about mortgaging, for example. If you've got an interest rate that increases, I mean, you could be talking about $400 difference in a month in 0.5%, depending on where you are in the market, whether you're at a $400,000 house or an $800,000 house. It can be anywhere from $200 to $400. Now, you extrapolate that and you have another 0.5 point increase. You've just doubled it. So even the lowest price houses will have a $400 a month change in their mortgage payments. And the higher end, if you're talking about an $800, that's $800 a month. So it has an effect. What we have to realize, though, that increase is not quite getting up to pre-pandemic levels. Understand, we're not getting to the pre-pandemic levels when the interest rates really dropped, and the government did it intentionally to help people out. And now we're going back to what that was. What we didn't have then, though, is we didn't have inflation. So you didn't have inflation at 6 and 7%. That was around at the time. Now we do. And that's causing us more difficulty because, gas at the pump, this food sales, all these things have gone up. So no more people are going to pause now and see, what can I afford, right? Can I afford it? Can I afford it going forward? So buyers are doing that. So we're seeing a general slowdown in the real estate market. And that's really exhibited by our next slide.
Before we get to that next slide, Mr. Binder, inflation, does it affect the pricing of a listing, of a residential listing? Does it affect your agents in setting up a price?
Well, listen, it does to some extent, only from the standpoint because it's going to affect out what a buyer can pay. So if I have to put more money toward a mortgage, I have less money to discretionary income to put into goods and services and recreational stuff and all the things that I would do in my life. So listen, it's a budget. It's part of the budget. So the key for that, it's a major factor on the budget. And the bottom line, it's really going to be the buyer that's going to determine whether or not, do I want to buy the house now? But let's understand one more thing. Every time we have an increase like that, people have to recalibrate. I have to go back and figure it out. So I stop what I'm doing. I go back to my lender. I have to go back to that, get requalified. I have to go through all those steps. And basically that's the case. At the same time, what else do we see? A greater supply of houses. So where I would have only chosen maybe 1 or 2 or 5 houses, I might have 5 or 6 or 10 houses now to look at. And I'm going to look at them all. So we just will see in our market, whether we like it or not, a slowing down of the market, just because people have more choices to make. And they are also figuring things out financially as to what they can afford or what they can't afford. And that's really what it is. And the prices haven't made up, the drop in prices hasn't made up that $400 stagger in the mortgage, right? So those are the things we have to really consider going forward, whether or not those are happening. And they're happening in real time. So I know my agents have really noticed a pause. We've noticed a pause in business, and that's likely going to continue for the next ensuing several months.
Okay, let's get on to the next topic. And I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but the residential listings. And it's a number that seems to be going up, which I think in turn, and you're the doctor here, that helps the buyer, does it not?
Absolutely. What happens is that what you're seeing much more supply. Where we had a little while ago, people were fighting to get a house, right? So very often you'd see, anywhere up to 10 offers on a house. 1 was the winner and 9 were the losers. And I can tell you, I know real estate agents in my office have written multiple offers on different houses, only to lose in the contest, so to speak, of trying to get that house. But what we're seeing now over the first part of this year is many more listings coming on. So just look at the number between last year in the listings and this year. You're at 14. You have almost 400 houses more that came on the market this year than you did last year. So, think about the choices. And I think we're going to show you a bit more of that going forward. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk to you about we've had a 37% increase. That's about a 37% increase in the year-to-year listings that we've got. And also what's really important for us to understand is when we started the month of May, we already had an inventory of almost 1,100 houses on the market. So what happened, they didn't get sold. So you're adding these to that. Now we're up to 2,500 houses and we're selling 600-700 houses or whatever the number was. So you're going to have more available product. And it's not an incremental change, it's a dramatic change. And when that happens, we have a lot of supply. When we have supply, it's no different. Supply, demand. If I have a lot of supply, it's going to bode well for the buyer. So I personally, my prognosis, we're going to have a drop in prices, and it's going to happen sooner than later. However, there's always going to be sellers that are fighting against that. They're still back in March where we were getting that big increase, and they want to get that big increase. That's why we put our houses on the market. And if they don't see it, they may or may not sell, and that's something that we'll deal with going forward.
How much of the listings growth, Mr. Binder, is from perhaps people trying to take advantage of the prices that were up for a long time here? People were overpaying for listed prices. How much of that is a spillover, so to speak, of people rushing to sell their house to try to get that big sale and hit the home run, so to speak here?
I mean, it's hard to tell you exactly what those numbers are. Certainly,
Mhm,
there are sellers taking advantage of that.
mhm,
You have
mhm,
to realize a lot of people bought houses. They were flipping houses. They were restoring houses and selling it for a higher
mhm,
price.
mhm,
We also had the Toronto effect. I call it the Toronto effect. Those people coming, migrating to our city from outside of our city, usually from Toronto and from larger cities, moving here. And we're going to show you some graphs about that as
mhm.
well. So the key is a lot of those things were happening, and some of those things are absent now. And that, again, will put more pressure on it. And you can see it just in the average sale price. So the average sale price, the annualized price dropped ever so slightly. It was 698, dropped to 687 roughly. However, what we need to know, and you don't see it necessarily in the graph, but the monthly the monthly price for the month of May was 647. So
Mhm.
what's that telling us? It's trending downward.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're
absolutely.
already seeing effect of the market on the monthly sales price. So, I'm suggesting that you're going to see a price drop. Uh, you don't see the price drop in the annualized rate because it's averaged. But if you're starting to see a drop in the monthly rate, it's going to trend that way. And that's exactly what we're calling it. We're calling that's going to be a trend. And I think we're unlike other cities in Ontario. We have a huge supply. Other cities don't have that supply, so they may not follow us as soon, but they will likely follow us without question. All right.
Yeah, interesting how this is all just going back and forth. And boy, you real estate people really have to stay on top of this stuff.
Yeah.
How
This is this
how
is
quickly it changes. It just
Yeah,
changes
and
so
this is a
quickly.
fast one, right? So normally it's
Yeah.
not, the correction doesn't occur as quickly. We don't have corrections like this. It's usually gradual,
Mhm.
and but we're having a quick correction. And I'm going to tell you why. I really truly believe because we are in a state of inflation. So because we're in an inflation type of market, you have banks really reacting to that. The mortal enemy of a bank is inflation. So they want to fight that. And we're talking about another 0.75% increase in interest rates. They will fight that. That's enemy number one. And because of that, there's going to be collateral damage. Some of that collateral damage is the housing business, because now suddenly people are having to make changes in their mortgaging. Listen, understand, even people have to renew their mortgage. So those people who are renewing will have those same changes to deal with. So we have a lot of change going on and I call change uncertainty. When there's uncertainty in the market, you're going to have a pause. You're going to have people getting used to the corrections, and that's exactly what we're having right now in our market.
Wow. All right. So let's continue on then here, Mr. Binder, and get into something else. Another topic that's, I guess, being influenced, so to speak, the Ontario forecast for home price growth.
Yeah,
Let's get into that. And again, the inflation topic becomes a very important element here.
absolutely. Well, it basically, if you bring that graph up, basically what's this showing? And I want you to notice. I don't know if people can make it out, but on the very far right side, the cities that are going to have the largest decline, guess who?
Yep.
Chatham-Kent, Windsor Essex are second and third.
Yeah.
And why is that? Now, this is talking about migration. So we were the benefactors of a lot of migration. We had a lot of people coming here, and whether we liked it or whether we didn't, okay, we did have that migration. We had a lot of people putting prices on houses here and affecting the price, moving it. If you want to call it artificially, I don't think it was artificial, but you had people paying higher prices for homes here. They thought they were excellent opportunities to buy. And we had a lot of people migrating here over the last several years during the pandemic. That was exacerbated by the fact I could work anywhere. Okay, so I could work in a company in Toronto by living here in Windsor.
Yep.
So that wasn't even a consideration at that point. But what's happened is that period of time is now ended. Okay, that because the pandemic's over, I don't have people moving nearly as much, saying, "Hey, I'm going to work from home in Windsor." So that has left us as well, and because that eliminates buyers. We did a study in our marketplace last year. All right, and it's staggering. 5.5% of our market was from outside the city.
Wow.
And that's brokers doing business down here outside our city. And that's substantial. Okay, that's a substantial number of people.
Sure.
If you take a lot of that away, and you won't take it all away, but if you take a lot of that away, that's going to be a bit of a hit on our market in terms of buyers that are available for our market, paying the prices that they were prepared to pay. Okay, so is that a good news for our buyers locally? Absolutely. But it also means that probably prices will also decline. So there's another reason to see another decline in prices when migration isn't going to be the case. Now, not to say that we won't have migration, we will, but that will be normally people who are coming into the country from outside, from international areas, right? So that's what it is. We're going to continue to get people to come to the country. We had 400,000 people come to our country last year. We'll continue to see that. So we'll certainly get a portion of those. A lot of those people still go to Southwestern Ontario, but those who are living here or living in Toronto and had their homes in Toronto, don't expect as many of those people to move moving down the road. They're having the same problem trying to sell their house right now.
Yeah, and if Evan, our producer, could bring that chart back up, Mr. Brown, I'm glad you said that about Toronto, because again, if you look at that chart, Toronto's near the bottom of it.
Yep. Yeah,
Really, no surprise.
They're going to keep their people, right? They're going to keep
Right.
the people because everybody's gone out. Everybody's left. Toronto's going to leave Toronto. So
Yeah.
but we're benefactors. So a lot of people in around the surrounding area, we call it the Toronto effect. Actually, those will be affected. We can't expect that to continue forever, and we see a real drop in that over the next little while for sure.
All right. So let's move on then, Mr. Binder. And it's something you alluded to a little bit earlier in the program here, the average sale price. And again, you've talked about it already, how it's going to drop.
Yeah, and I want to do this graph, if we bring it up, is basically one that I decided to show you a graph of the monthly average.
Okay.
So every month, these are the sales price. And if you look at it, just draw a little line at the top of the middle of these things. And where do you see the peak? You see the peak in March.
Right.
And so where we're already we're on the other side of the peak. Okay, so we had our massive increase in between January and February, and then a bit more of an increase in March, and then all of a sudden we're dropping, and we've had 2 months of drops right now, and you're going to continue to see that. So the bottom line is that's a good predictor. I don't know what else can tell you, and I'm suggesting to all my salespeople, bring this, show it to your sellers, because if you think that you're still at the peak, you're already beyond the peak. You're on the other side of the peak. You're on the downhill side of the peak already. Okay, and unless that plateaus out, and we're not suggesting that for a moment. We think that there's going to be additional drops. But remember, if you look at May, you haven't even got to where you started in January. Okay, so that's really important for us to understand. These are losses, but they're not losses of what was already gained. So if you gained 36% and you've lost 20%, you've still got 16% for the year. So we're not quite sure where that's going to end up. At the end of the day, we're calling it anywhere. It could erode to about as low as 10%. So there'd be still a 10% gain for the year. Not bad when considering all things that we're looking at. And I'm saying that only from the standpoint is that if this does plateau out.
Is there any way, Mr. Binder, with your agents and of course yourself, I know you work hard day and night at this stuff, and you're monitoring everything that's going on. You mentioned how some of these people that bought homes, say they bought it for 800,000, but already the price is dropping, the value is dropping. It's like when you, I guess, buy a car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. Obviously, that doesn't happen often with housing, but it's happening here a little bit where the prices are dropping, as you have explained to our viewers. any way to anticipate how far they can drop or will drop? And if somebody did spend $800,000 on a house, and then all of a sudden they're below that market value there, that's got to be a little bit scary if you're a homeowner, especially if you bought your first home.
Yeah, if you've just bought a house and you're losing value, of course it's a little scary. There's no question about it. I mean, there's a bit of an ebb and flow in our housing market. Traditionally, that hasn't happened for 4 years, by the way. So if you've had your house for over 4 years, you're still a big benefactor of the gains that have been made over the last couple of years. Those who are just trying to buy a house are probably happy to hear some of this news coming their way. But of course, there's going to be some sellers who are not happy. We can tell you right now that there's that people who have got offers on houses are sometimes struggling with the fact that that's now the case, and they're a little unhappy about having to buy their houses. So we're dealing with all those factors at this point in time. Anytime there's a transition, both up or down, there's a side that's going to get hurt. And if it's the sellers now, it may be the sellers and the buyers will have some advantages. The last slide we're going to show you is why that's an advantage to the buyer right now. They should be looking at saying, hey, wait a minute, I've been looking at that and I've got an opportunity to buy the house. And so basically, if you look at the average sale price of the thing, you're seeing an annualized rate there. And remember the graph that I showed you was 647 for the month of May. Basically, what's important though, and not in the graph, is the sales to list ratio. So, we take the number of listings that are on the market, the number of sales that brought, and we come up with a percentage. So the percentage, we're always running in the 70% range, which made it a seller's market. Anything over 60% is a seller's market. 40 to 60% is a balanced market. Under 40% is a buyer's market. So what we see though in the month of May is that the sales listing dropped both to 61%. So it would be at the very low end of the seller's market. That's the annualized rate. But if you look at the monthly rate, staggering 41%. So look at the difference there.
Yeah.
So basically what it is telling you that it's trending down. It's trending down to the buyer's side of the equation, where we could be actually going to a buyer's market, but most certainly into a balanced market. And basically what does that mean? Sellers and buyers will be negotiating sales now. Will we have less? We'll have less multiple offers going forward. More than likely, I'll have more selection of houses to pick from, and I'll be negotiating. Hey, and Dom, guess what? We may even have conditions in our offers going forward. So those are all the things, the factors that it's bringing to us. I know I'm meeting with our group just to even talk about all the changes that are coming to, because we've had people that joined us over the last 3 years. They don't know any other market than the seller's market that we've had. So we've got to get conditioned for what's coming and understand that it's going to go on. I mean, there's a lot of economics at play too, Don, with the war, with the stuff that's going on, supply issues around the globe, things that we don't have any control over for sure.
Right.
They are affecting us. There's no question about that at this point in time. So we hope that they should go away. But I want to make sure that this is not a doom and gloom story. It can't end that way. This area has got substantial amount of opportunity ahead of it. We've got people moving into the areas in terms of jobs. We talk about the battery plant. We've got 600 engineers starting. We've got all kinds of opportunities here that are going to be great for us over the next few years. So will we gain it back? More than likely, we'll gain much of it back. Will we have a correction? Absolutely, without question, we're going to have a correction going forward. And the cost of money is going to be a little bit up. So the bottom line is we're going to deal with it. We're going to have to figure that out. And both sellers and buyers will ultimately come to some kind of a meeting of the minds, as they say. That's the way we describe a deal. That will happen over the next several months. Expect the next several months to be below par for sure. And as the adjustments are being made.
A meeting of the minds, and that's why this mind doesn't go there. It leaves it to the professionals like you, Frank. So
absolutely,
we appreciate all the information, great information, great content, and that's why this show is so very important to certainly put out to our viewers and to just some of the people that kind of watch that real estate market and want to know what's going on. So
No, we appreciate it, Don.
Yeah, appreciate all your knowledge. That's for sure. So we're going to meet again in about a month, and we'll have our next market report for you. But Mr. Binder, I want to thank you again for bringing us on board. A great show today, as always. And you know what? You can follow Royal LePage Binder Realty. You'll go to their website, royallepagebinder.com. Of course, they're on all the social media addresses, and check them out here on Facebook. Check them out on their YouTube channel. Watch these shows. That's the beauty of the internet, folks. You can go back and watch it anytime you want. It's up there for good now. So take advantage of that. Mr. Binder, you have a great day. We'll look forward to chatting with you again in about a month's time. And until then, this is Dominic Papa wishing you a great day. Thanks for tuning in to the Royal LePage Binder Live Market Report. Take care, everybody.